Be strong.
Today we have with us Phil Gorman. Phil, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Alexa.
And Phil, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'll keep it as brief as possible. But I'm the father of three 20-something-year-old kids and have been able to enjoy a full life. I live in La Jolla, California, and I'm a very lucky man to be here. And as you know, and
Yes.
I've been in sales and marketing for my entire professional adult life, and I've done a lot of different things that has led me to this Zoom call or this interview today.
And Phil, you are the founder of E-commerce Day?
I am. And e-commerce day, we started it. I had my own Shopify centric design and build agency. And we were conducting different workshops around San Diego in partnership with the local SBA office. And then we had moved up to Los Angeles as well. And with every workshop, we got more and more people. So the demand for information on how to successfully compete and operate an e-commerce business became greater and greater. So we decided instead of 3-hour workshops that maybe an all-day affair and bringing in experts with a larger knowledge base than we have would make a lot of sense for folks. So that's how it was born just about a year ago.
That's awesome. And for those of you that don't know, Next Left just participated in E-commerce Day this year with Phil and his team. Everybody came down and we did a little HQ setup here in La Jolla, which didn't suck. It was pretty fun.
Yeah.
Had some tacos and some good team moments. So that was awesome. And I want to back up to Phil before the reality of E-commerce Day and what that is now, which we'll come back to. I'd love to hear a little bit about your journey as an entrepreneur, because that in itself is quite a journey, right? And I would be so interested in hearing how you went from, in the traditional marketing advertising space to actually branching out on your own and creating what E-commerce Day is now.
You know what's funny, Alexis? I've come full circle. So when I was in my late teens and early 20s, I actually produced concerts in my hometown of Baltimore. And that involved not only getting the talent, but ticket distribution and promotion for that as well. Everything we do for E-commerce Day is exactly the same. So that was over 35 years ago. So I've done a lot in between, but that was kind of my start into creating value, and something from nothing. And obviously had a lot of fun doing that. But from that, I moved actually here to La Jolla, California, and got into the hat business. We were importing hats from Mexico and selling them to lifeguard outfits and surf shops. So you're familiar with the wide brim sun hats that are pretty ubiquitous, especially here these days. And we had about a 7-year run. And that was my first foray into direct-to-consumer selling. It was e-commerce of the day. We didn't have a website and email, but it was called mail order. But the principles were the same. The foundation and the pillars and the makeup of that business and how it worked was exactly the same as it is today. So theoretically, I've been in e-commerce for over 30 years and have done some things in between. But there always tended to be an e-commerce sales element to just about everything I did. But from the hat business, I really enjoyed all the ins and outs of operating a small business. And at the time, American Express was looking for small business advisors. So I took them up on that offer and became a small business advisor here in town, and quickly translated that into a new product for American Express that I developed in-house, and then spun it off into my own company, which I then sold back to American Express about 10 years later. So it was a wild ride. It was a ton of fun. And again, had many elements of what we're working with today. And then since then, after selling that, I worked in publishing, as you know,
Hmm.
and ad sales and some other traditional things. I published two magazines for a number of years. That was a lot of fun. Um, and then I got into SaaS software, and it's SaaS software that brought me right back to e-commerce because, as we all know, e-commerce runs on thousands of SaaS solutions. So I teamed up with Shopify for e-commerce day, and so I get my love of SaaS and everything involved with the tech aspect of it, and then I get my former concert promotion love and elements all wrapped into one.
That's an amazing story. And I feel like every time, I come in contact with an entrepreneur, there's always this like test and try period. And these 30 years that you were in e-commerce and that you've been working in e-commerce, it blows my mind because, I'm 27 and e-commerce now, of what I know of it, the past 30 years, like you were an OG e-commerce guy. You saw it all the way through ideation, through its kind of growth spurts, if you will, and now to this beast of what it is. And especially with COVID-19, how it's really transforming the world and the climate and the way people shop, buy, and sell these days. So it's really neat to hear your story and hear all the different arenas you were in before you came to this company now, which is e-commerce day.
Yeah,
um, and I'd love to hear about, the partnership with Shopify. It was no small deal. Shopify is one of the largest e-commerce platforms that's out there. And I know on our side with clients, we have numerous clients that we work with on the Next Left side that are using the Shopify platform or moving to the Shopify platform. Why Shopify? What was it about that platform in specific that you wanted to make that partnership?
I had used it back in 2013 and 14. So Shopify was probably 6 or 7 years old at the time, and it still had a ways to go. But it was the most practical solution that was on the market, and I really appreciated the elegant solution that they had come up with and designed. And then, my Amex training just taught me, that partnerships make the world go round, and just ask. So I used our modern social technology tools, LinkedIn being it, and I spent about 45 days. Literally, that's all I did for about 45 days was hunting down and finding the right person at Shopify via LinkedIn and cold emailing. And I finally got
Mhm.
to the right person, and we had a beautiful conversation not long after we connected on LinkedIn. And then the rest is history.
That's so LinkedIn. Wow.
Yeah.
So what was that? I mean, any best practices you want to share there? Because I'm sure lots of people listening will say, LinkedIn?
Cold email. Cold
Really?
email. It's an art. It's an art, and
That's great.
it's from years of doing cold emails in the American Express world that I was in,
Mhm.
because they're a bank, because they had sold investments, because they sold insurance. We couldn't email anything to anybody because there was so much compliance
Yeah.
and rules to doing so. So that's where I kind of really crafted how can you get somebody's attention without hitting them over the head with a sales pitch and make it conversational. I think today, especially, we're way less formal, right? We don't write
Mhm.
formal letters anymore. We email and text, and that's more casual conversation. So then, if you take it to LinkedIn or Facebook or again a text situation, those are casual conversations. So to be able to casually tap somebody on the shoulder and get their attention in 2 sentences is basically what I've been working on for a long time, and that's proven very effective for me. And frankly, that's how I met Next Left. That's how I got John as a friend and partner with e-commerce day.
Mhm.
And then, frankly, all my other sponsors came the same way, and those were cold emails either through LinkedIn or through a traditional email platform.
That blows my mind. And just for everybody that's listening, this sponsor speaker list was really impressive, and we were stoked to be a part of it. I mean, you had the global director of partnerships from Facebook, right? We had one of the Shopify execs there as a partner and sponsor. We had Rebecca Minkoff speak as a speaker who gave an amazing talk as one of the keynotes. Any
Cold
other big
emails,
ones?
all of them.
That's wild.
All of
That's
them. Yep.
wild.
So my advice to anybody listening that might be interested, man, just ask. Just ask people. You know, it doesn't hurt, and if you do it appropriately, people are responsive. They're nice. I mean, they're civil.
Yeah.
We're in e-commerce. I've mentioned to you a few times, Alexa. We're not curing cancer here.
Yeah.
There's no life or death situation. Yes, it's important, people's
True.
livelihoods, and yes, I don't mean to diminish it, but
Right.
hey, would you like to come speak to 1,000 people? People are usually pretty receptive.
That's great. That's great. And so I have a question for you about the growth of your business now, e-commerce day. How many employees are you?
We were 4 full time and then 3 part time. So we had 7 people on duty, on e-commerce day to execute the
Mhm.
event. So because it was our first virtual, the most recent one, execution was key. While we've all had the internet now for many years and been able to navigate around our computers and phones via the web, sometimes tech gets complicated. We lose
Yeah.
connections. Software breaks. It doesn't work like like when we most need it, right? Sometimes it
Yep.
fails us. So execution on our part, because it was so tech heavy, being virtual was a big part of that. We got lucky. Everything went smoothly and went well, and we're gearing up for next year. And next year we have a live. We're bringing back a live in person event um, for next October
That one is in LA?
in LA. So
Okay.
LA, for those that are listening, maybe outside the area, Los Angeles has a very robust e-commerce community. San Diego does as well, but LA has a really robust e-commerce community, and I don't necessarily know what to attribute that to.
Yeah.
But even more so, I think, than San Francisco, right? A lot of the tech comes out of San Francisco, but the direct to consumer brands in LA are really strong.
That's that's super interesting. I would have totally thought Silicon Valley and San Francisco would have been
Hmm.
the heavy hitter e-com area, San Diego and LA. Very cool. Well, for anybody
Hmm.
listening, LA next October, once we can gather safely again, super exciting. But in the meantime, you still have two virtual events that are coming up, right?
We do. So we're going to do e-commerce day virtual again in March. So that's going to be a wrap up, maybe a data dump of what was learned over these next upcoming months. So the
Mhm.
holiday period, right? This is going to be the silliest holiday selling season on record for just about everybody in e-commerce, and there's going to be some challenges with that as well. But then some learnings. So we're going to call upon our partners to share what they learned over this crazy period uh, with our attendees that are trying to figure it out.
And what can people expect to learn at e-commerce day for those that haven't heard of e-commerce day or from a speaker? I know it's a different perspective, but I'm curious, even for the audience, those that have gone or haven't gone, what are some of the takeaways they can hope to get or knowledge they can hope to leave with?
I think what a lot of people don't necessarily understand when they first get into e-commerce or are just trying to figure it out is that the consumer really runs the show. And when you hear about these different tech solutions and things to help increase sales or drive conversion rates or things like that for an e-commerce store, a lot of that is driven by consumer behavior, right? So
Yeah.
many people are aware of, the shift to mobile, and that's real, and that's like massive over the last even just 12, 18 months. I've seen e-commerce stores, have had 200% increases of their mobile traffic by nothing that the store did. It's all consumer based, right? We're on our phones. We're like, hey, I'm going to look that up on my phone. I'm watching TV. Something flashes on the screen or trigger something in my mind, and I look it up on my phone, right? I don't walk over to my desktop or have my laptop handy. So a lot of the tools and tech that emerge from different consumer shifts in consumer behavior um, come out, and e-commerce day being a live event, it's up to the second. We get to hear what people have discovered, and what's new and what's hot, and what's maybe a new best practice that others are willing to share and say, hey, you know what? Email is not dead, and here's how to do email properly. SMS has come up really strong. in terms of messaging, not only uh, in an initial kind of sales attempt or discount offer, but in customer retention, in
Mm.
ongoing communications with your customer, and just doing it strictly via text. That was unheard of 2 years ago, right? Solicitations via text were considered an annoyance.
Mhm.
Now, I can click on a text offer or something from somebody that texts me, maybe a shipping update, one thumb click, and I can get a tracking on my order and know that it's on the other side of San Diego on a truck coming to me. And that's
Mhm.
because I got a text. And now I feel good about that thing that I purchased. And hey, that's great communication. Um, so little things like that. Those are more recent examples, but really that tends to be what gets born out of this. Back in February when we had our in-person event, buy now pay later was kind of hitting its stride, right? So it's the modern layaway practice. So we had Sezzle present, and there's a few other players in the market. um, Buy now pay later is a consumer driven tool. They didn't Consumers want to be able to have a credit option without using their own credit card or some other expensive forms of credit. And this is a new and modern product that again was born out of consumer behavior.
So interesting when you bring up all of these different services that are coming up into this e-commerce space, and even the language around certain services being dead, or like we hear it all the time, like, is SEO dead, is content marketing dead, is
Mm-hmm.
SMS dead? It's like, well, really none of these things are dead, right? It's just that the market is just received a huge boost. It's been boosting over time, and now it's tenfold. And we're in a much more competitive landscape. So we'll hear people say, like, this is dead or that is dead, but really, you ought to know how to do and know what's most effective for your business in this competitive market. And that's why something like e-commerce day, for me, even the services that we don't offer here at Next Left, it's good for us to be aware of what those are, and it's good for us to understand, so that if we do have clients that their book of business, it makes sense for them to be on these different platforms. That's great. And I think we hear it so much about these different areas being dead. And I keep thinking to myself, it just got harder. Nothing's dead. It just got way harder. You need to know about or be doing all of the things, or do just the right things, but none of them are not important. So,
Or it just got harder, or what you thought was dead has become like table stakes. It's an everyday thing. What do you mean you're not retargeting? What do you mean you're not?
yeah.
It's not dead. You should have been doing that the whole time. It doesn't need to be promoted because that's a given that you're doing that. And some things have really emerged as becoming table stakes. And I'll tell you what, Alexa, this goes back to the mail order days.
Mm.
The foundation is the same, the principles are the same. We just have new tech tools to help mitigate. And as our friend Dylan Whitman likes to say, it's just arbitrage in between the person selling the product and the consumer, and we're using tech in the middle to help get that done. So how can you do that most efficiently? Because the tech keeps changing. Some things get more expensive, so you can't afford to do that anymore. It gets back to, what do your consumers and your buyers prefer? Go where the customer is. Back in the day, it was magazine ads for us, but we'd place an ad and it wouldn't come out for 3 months. We're pissed
Yeah.
today when Facebook takes three hours to approve an ad.
Yeah.
And we used to have to wait 3 months, and we took credit card numbers over the phone, and we got checks mailed into us, and had a PO box, and received dozens of checks every day that we would have to manually process orders. It was fun. It was profitable. But yeah, now the biggest difference is tech, and what tech are your customers liking, using? Where are they? And then, because I think one of the myths today is some people, you hear a lot of things like, oh, you have to be on social media. Well, what does that mean? You don't need to be on Facebook if your customers aren't on Facebook. It just depends on your business. Everybody has their unique attributes and things that work for their customers. And whatever works, boy, right? Do more of that.
Whatever works, do more of that. Takeaway, major takeaway. And on that note too, I mean, so I think a lot of what I saw at e-commerce day was opportunity for those that are just starting out in this e-commerce climate to really learn how to get started. What would your advice be for someone right now, in the midst of where the world is? I want to open up an e-commerce store. What would your advice be? Like, how do I get started? What should I be focused on?
Really, really great question, and I'm glad you asked it because my advice to everybody is just start.
Mm.
Just start because e-commerce is a fluid, ever-changing thing, and ever-changing meaning every day it's different. It's one of the reasons why I'm in it so deeply now because I love the fact that it changes every day. I've seen too many people wrestle with the perfection of their logo or the perfection of their website before they release it to the public. Just go. The Shopify solution and even some of the others really kind of make it foolproof that you really can't go wrong with some of those sites. It'll look good almost out of the box. It's just the tweaks on the functionality, and I would say just do it. And if you need help, kind of back to how I put e-commerce day together, it's just ask people for help. There's you know all those people that you saw at e-commerce day, all those other experts, right? We had over 50 speakers. All of them know more than just what's in their lane or what their expertise is, right? You can talk to a 3PL or logistics person about their Shopify site. Believe it or not, you can talk. These people know a lot of things about everything e-commerce, and they're always more than willing to share their information with people starting out. And I think one of the other myths that people have or stumbling blocks that they have to getting started is they just maybe get overwhelmed with the idea of the competition that they might be facing once they open their doors.
Mm.
That I can't sell this item because there's whatever, Best Buy sells a million of them a year or whatever the scenario is. And I would say, and we saw this year because of COVID, and you mentioned this, we had over 10 years worth of growth in e-commerce as a percentage of overall retail sales. We had 10 years worth of growth in 3 months. There is lots more room to grow because we're still well under 50% of all retail being e-commerce. There are still people that once we do get a vaccine or therapies or things to give people a comfort level, now people have become kind of comfortable with shopping on their phone. And again, the tools have gotten better and things have become easier. So if you have a niche, if you have an audience, great. If you don't have an audience, find out who that audience might be. Don't ask your family members if they would buy your product. Ask a stranger. Um, Again, competition. I just finished a call not that long ago with a company that develops that they provide a private label drop shipping of supplements and CBD products. Now you might
Mhm.
think, CBD, it's everywhere. Supplements, I can get them at CVS. I can do all these things. Well, maybe you can for sure, but if it's Alexa's CBDs and Alexa belongs to the Ocean Beach Dog Club and the dog club has 500 members and you have these great dog gummies in the Alexa Dog Club, you have an audience and you could
Yeah.
make some money selling your branded dog gummies and make a little bit on each bottle. I don't know. There's lots of little niches and lots of creative ways that folks can really leverage e-commerce to make not only additional income for themselves, but even a full-time living. And I've seen it done many times over. The media likes to promote people that make seven figures in some ridiculous fashion, but there's lots of folks making a really good living, grossing 300 $400,000 a year selling products online.
Well, just give me 1 second while I write down Alexa's Dog Beach Gummies. Don't tell John. That's great advice. That's really
Yeah,
great
no,
advice.
there's so many different ways to skin it, and it is just do it. Don't worry about. I mean, the website's the easy part. It truly is, and a lot of people just get hung up on the tech. and that's the easy part. Just be prepared to sell, 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 and then that's another stumbling block. People think, oh, I'm not a salesperson, I hate sales. If you're passionate about your product and what you have, it'll become effortless. It's not, it's not as hard as it sounds.
And I have to say, echoing what you said, Phil, the community at e-commerce day was really special because even as a speaker and sponsor, we connected with several other speakers and sponsors after e-commerce day, and we're learning loads from these people. And this community, I'm learning as someone fairly new to e-commerce that everybody is really excited to help one another because it's a very innovative space and there's so much growth. Most of us were like, what do we even do with this, right? We're
Right.
creating, we're making an industry that was large become a giant overnight, essentially. And so I had some really great conversations with George and Casey over at ShipBob, had a really great conversation with Steven over at Good Carts, and a few others that if I forget, apologies, but we've been sharing information and best practices and even talking about how as an e-commerce SEO company, do we look at social impact, or how are you looking at your sustainable footprint from an e-commerce dropship side, things like that. So it's been really cool to be able to share knowledge with these people and support each other in this journey that is e-commerce.
Yeah, I'm really grateful for the lack of ego that I've found in the industry. I'm really
Yeah.
grateful. It really makes for a pleasant experience for everybody involved.
Yeah. Well, you heard it, folks. Just get started. And this is Phil Gorman. Phil, I want to ask you, where can people learn more about e-commerce day and your work that you're doing?
Yeah, Alexa, great question. We've added some weekly expert Q&A sessions as well on our website. So you can go to ecommerceday.com. That's E-COMMERCEDAY. So don't forget the dash after the E for e-commerce day. And again, we have weekly expert sessions that are live Q&A sessions that people can just come in and ask their questions, whatever they are, and then I'll have a different guest each week. One of the experts that we were just referring to from the industry joining me and helping answer folks' questions. And then you'll find more information about the upcoming e-commerce days, the one in March, July, and then next October in LA.
Great. Thank you so much, Phil, for
Great.
being here and for giving us the opportunity to pick your brain.
Great. Thank you, Alexa.
Cheers.
Be strong.